What if I told you that the single missile launch more than 7,000 miles away could change the price of your dinner before the end of the week? Imagine pulling into your local gas station on a Friday afternoon only to discover that the gasoline has jumped by 30 to 40% a gallon almost overnight. A few days later, you walk into your neighborhood grocery store and suddenly notice higher prices on milk, eggs, bread, meat, fresh vegetables, and countless everyday essentials. For many Americans, these prices increase can feel completely random, as though the company simply decided to charge more without explanation. But the reality is often far more complicated in today's interconnected global economy. Events occurring thousands of miles away can ripple across financial markets, shipping lanes, supply chains, transportation networks, and eventually reach your own wallet. In this documentary, we're going to break down one of the most misunderstood subjects in global economics: oil. We'll examine why the Strait of Hormuz has become one of the most strategically important waterways on Earth, why the headlines involving Iran and the Persian Gulf or reactions can ultimately affect the prices Americans pay every single day. We'll also explore why oil prices sometimes rise even when no oil has actually stopped flowing, why uncertainty itself has economic consequences, and why understanding these connections has never been more important. This isn't about creating fear or predicting disaster. It's about understanding how today's global economy actually works so that the next time you hear breaking news from the Middle East, you'll better understand why it may matter to your family, your finances, and your future. Every morning, millions of Americans wake up, get dressed, pour a cup of coffee, climb into their vehicles, and begin another ordinary day without giving much thought to oil. They drive to work and take their children to school. They pick up groceries after work, order packages online, and perhaps enjoy dinner at local restaurant. Fuel simply becomes another routine expense that occasionally rises or falls in price. Yet beneath these ordinary daily routines exists one of the most complex and interconnected economic systems ever created. Oil is far more than the gasoline that powers your cars. Petroleum fuel commercial aircraft, cargo ships, freight trains, semi trucks, construction equipment, farm machinery, emergency vehicles, military operations, and countless industries that keep modern civilization functioning. It also serves as a key ingredient in plastics, fertilizers, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, cosmetics, the synthetic clothing, electronics, packaging, materials, industrial chemicals, asphalt used to pave roads, and thousands of products that most people use every day without realizing they began as crude oil. Because the petroleum plays such an enormous role throughout the global economy, changes in its price rarely remain isolated to the gas station alone. Transportation companies often pay more to move goods across the country. Farmers may spend more on diesel fuel and fertilizer. Manufacturers may face higher production costs. Airlines often experience increased operating expenses. Delivery companies, also transporting everything from groceries to online purchases, may also see their costs rise. Now, those additional expenses can gradually work their way through the supply chain and eventually affecting the prices consumers see on the store shelves. While the timing and severity of these effects vary depending on inventories, the contracts, competition, and local market conditions, energy costs remain one of the most important drivers influencing inflation throughout the economy. Now imagine that the world energy system operates like an enormous network of highways stretching across continents and oceans. Most of those routes function efficiently, allowing the product to move from producers to consumers. But every transportation network has bottlenecks, places where the enormous amounts of traffic must squeeze through relatively narrow passages. In global shipping, these are known as choke points. Among the most important of these choke points anywhere on Earth is the Strait of Hormuz. If you've never heard much about it before, you're certainly not alone. Yet this relatively narrow stretch of water has become one of the most strategically significant locations in the global economy. The Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and ultimately to the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. On one side lies Iran, across the water sits Oman and the United Arab Emirates. Major oil producing nations, including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE, rely heavily on the passage to transport oil and liquefied natural gas to customers throughout Asia, Europe, and other regions around the world. And although the strait itself spans many miles, the designated shipping lanes used by massive oil tankers navigate these lanes. Collectively, roughly one-fifth of the world's daily oil consumption passes through this single maritime corridor, making it one of the most economically important locations anywhere on the planet. To better understand why this matters, let's picture a major interstate bridge connecting several large cities. If an accident blocks traffic on that bridge, congestion quickly spreads throughout the surrounding highway system. Drivers begin searching for alternative routes. The delays increase and traffic jams extend far beyond the original accident. Something remarkably similar happens within global energy markets. If investors believe that shipping through the Strait of Hormuz could become more dangerous or even temporarily disrupted, they immediately begin reassessing the future oil supplies. This is where one of the most misunderstood concepts in economics comes into play. Oil prices don't rise only because actual supplies have changed. They also respond to expectations about what could happen in the future. Financial markets spend every day trying to anticipate tomorrow rather than simply reacting to yesterday. If traders believe future shipments may be delayed because the military conflict, attacks on the infrastructure, sanctions, or heightened regional heightened regional tensions, many begin purchasing the oil contracts immediately. The increased demand for those contracts can push oil prices higher long before any physical shortage has actually occurred. This surprises many people because they assume prices only rise after supplies disappear. In reality, the markets often respond first to the uncertainty itself. Think about how people prepare when major snowstorms are in the forecast. Long before the first snowflake falls, grocery stores begin filling with customers buying bottled water, bread, batteries, canned food, and other supplies. The shelves empty because people expect the shortages, not because shortages already exist. Financial markets behave in much the same way. When geopolitical tensions increase in the Middle East, investors begin asking questions. Could the commercial shipping become less secure? Will insurance companies charge higher premiums? Could oil tankers delay departures? Might shipping companies reroute the vessels to avoid danger? Could military strikes damage the ports, pipelines, or energy infrastructure? Will governments impose the uncertainty into the marketplace? And uncertainty is something financial markets generally dislike. Even if none of these worst case scenarios ultimately occurred, businesses often began preparing for the potential disruptions. Insurance companies may increase the premiums for ships entering higher risk waters. Shipping firms may hire the additional security and adjust routes and delay the departures or even increase operating expenses. Those additional costs don't simply disappear. Eventually, they become part of the overall cost of transporting energy around the world, and many businesses attempt to recover those costs through the higher prices charged to the consumers. Now, this doesn't mean every company immediately raises the prices or that the product becomes more expensive overnight. The existing inventories, competition, long term contracts, consumer demand, and countless other factors all influence the final prices. But because energy plays such a critical role in virtually every sector of the economy, changes in oil markets often ripple outward into many areas of everyday life. Now let's return to your neighborhood gas station. Many people assume that gasoline flows directly from the oil wells into their vehicles. But that's not how the process works. The crude oil must first be transported to the refineries where sophisticated industrial processes separate it into gasoline, diesel fuel, jet fuel, heating oil, lubricants, petrochemical, feedstocks, and numerous other petroleum products. The refineries operate around the clock while balancing the maintenance schedules, environmental regulations, seasonal fuel blends, regional demand, and available supplies. When the crude oil becomes more expensive, the refineries often pay more for the raw material needed to produce the gasoline. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the gas prices increase by exactly the same amount, because taxes, refining capacity, transportation costs, local competition, and regional supply conditions also play important roles. But nevertheless, the crude oil remains one of the largest factors influencing the fuel prices. And that's why breaking news involving military conflict or heightened tensions thousands of miles away can sometimes contribute to higher gasoline prices. Within days, it isn't necessarily because the physical disruptions could happen. That distinction is one of the most important concepts to understand when discussing the global economics. Markets frequently respond to the expectations, the probabilities, the forecasts, and the risk assessments long before events fully unfold. But in today's interconnected world, the expectations can travel much faster than the ship pipelines or cargo planes ever could. I want to thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you tomorrow for the second part of part one. Thank you.